All right, let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour, where the verdict on the Kathua rape and murder case is expected to be delivered shortly. A special court in Pathankot in Punjab will deliver the verdict in the Kathua rape and murder case. Remember, an 8-year-old child was brutally raped and murdered. Now, the judge has already arrived at the court. He's in the court presently, and all 7 accused have also been brought inside of the court. The trial, which was being conducted in isolation, ended on the 3rd of June, after which Judge Tejwinder Singh had announced that the 10th of June, that is today, is expected to be the day when the verdict will be read out. Remember, the proceedings have been carried out in camera and security has been beefed up in the court premises as well as in Kathua, where the incident happened as a precautionary measure. Now, all the accused except for the juvenile are presently inside the courtroom and could receive the punishment of a life imprisonment or a maximum punishment of a death penalty if convicted. Now, Mubin Farooq, the lawyer fighting on behalf of the victim's father, has assured that he was confident of obtaining the capital punishment for the accused.
जो भी देखिए, ये अदालत में जो भी हमारे गवाह थे, 114 गवाह हमने पेश किए हैं, तो इनका इन्होंने क्रॉस भी किया है, बट हम पूरे कॉन्फिडेंट हैं कि सारा कुछ जो भी हम चाहते थे वो ऑन रिकॉर्ड आ चुका है. कन्विक्शन इसमें हमारी तरफ से 101% कन्विक्शन होगी.
The Kathua rape had galvanized the entire nation and had come as a shock for the society. Remember, a young 8-year-old child from the nomad Bakarwal community was abducted, then drugged, kept inside of a shed, and then brutally raped, gang raped and murdered by the 8 accused. Her body was eventually discovered a week later in a village almost a kilometer away from her home. Now, after mass protests and outrage across the nation, the accused were finally arrested. And also in the ghastly developments, there were some right-wing groups who had taken out rallies in support of the accused. They had attempted to stop the filing of an FIR and had heckled those who had gone to file an FIR. And these unfavorable circumstances had in fact led the Supreme Court to intervene. And it had then directed, the Supreme Court had then directed that the case should be shifted out of Jammu and Kashmir and should be carried out in Pathankot in Punjab for an independent case to be done. Now, the Kathua tragedy had led to a nationwide debate on sexual crime being given a religious colour, because this was for the first time where in many ways there were people who were coming out to try and shield a rape accused. Now, the Kathua controversy again came into focus during the Aligarh rape case as well, where a section of the people felt similar outrage had not been displayed when the case had come to light. Now, all eyes are fixed on the judgment that is expected to be read out. All right, now there are breaking inputs that have just come in the Kathua rape and murder case. Now, 3 of the accused in this case have been convicted. This is information that is just coming out. Remember, there were 7 accused in total, along with 1 juvenile. Now, the 7 of the accused were inside of the court premises as the judgment, we are given to understand, has been read out. And the information that has just come out is that 3 of the accused have been convicted, is the latest bit of information that we have got in terms of what has been read out in this case. Remember, this is a case which had shocked the conscience of the country for the sheer brutality in terms of what had happened. And my colleague Ishan Wani, who's been tracking the developments, is joining us. Now, Ishan, what is the latest update?
Well, 3 accused have been convicted in this case, while the hearing for others is going on. Now, we're expecting that the verdict will be delivered for them also today. They were produced in the court. They are inside the courtroom. All of them were presented inside the court before the judge, who had earlier said that today is the day when he will make the judgment. Now, this is something which will be, give some relief to the family. The 3 of them have been convicted, but one has to wait and watch that what will be the outcome of other 7, while the age of the 8 is still pending in the High Court. The High Court will, Jammu and Kashmir High Court will decide about the age of the person who has pleaded that he is a minor. But one has to wait and watch what happens to the others. But 3 of them have been convicted by the court. This is the breaking news that's coming in right now. One has to wait and watch what will be the quantum of punishment that will be given to them. Whether it will be a life imprisonment or punishment will be, death. But this was a horrific rape incident that shook the entire country. There were protests across India after Nirbhaya. This was the case which also became a benchmark because Supreme Court and the local court also gave directions for not showing the pictures, not naming the girl, and not even showing the area where the rape had happened. So this also sent a benchmark in the Indian judiciary because they gave certain orders out which also included, not giving out the picture of the accused girl, not, the girl who was raped and brutally murdered. Apart from that, there were also certain observations made by the court which have been really set a benchmark in the Indian judiciary. But this will give some relief to the family, the nomadic family, which are traveling somewhere in the mountains of Kashmir right now. But this was a really a big and brutal rape that had happened. Apart from that, the politics over it, the communalization, the polarization of the state since the BJP, 2 leaders of the BJP came out in open support of the 2 accused and asked the people, they were trying to mobilize these people who had come out and tried to protest against the handling of the case by the Jammu and Kashmir police. Now remember, this was handled by the crime branch of the Jammu and Kashmir police who took a year to file this particular charge sheet. Remember, there were lawyers who tried to interrupt.
Absolutely, Inshan. Do continue to stay on with us. This, of course, is the big story that we're tracking on WION. So at this point of time, the latest information that has come in is that 3 of the accused in the case have been convicted. The judgment we're given to understand is being read out even as we speak. And our senior political affairs editor, Karthikeya Sharma, is also joining us with more details. Yes, Karthikeya, over to you.
See, the broad contour of the debate is that the hate crimes or the sexual crimes should not be given religious color. They should not be seen from the perspective of religion. They should not become a point of mobilization of a particular community against other. This has been the debate which we have seen in the Aligarh rape case, Aligarh assault case. This is the debate which we saw in the Kathua. The Kathua case became even more important because at United Nations, the General Secretary Antonio Guterres actually raised this issue and commented on this incident as horrific and asked Indian authorities to deliver justice. So Kathua became very international in its nature and coverage, and the matter was so sensitive that the whole case had to be shifted from the state of Jammu and Kashmir to the state of Punjab. But I would like to say that the broader issue here is that crime or the sexual crime or the crime which are against women and children should not be seen from the perspective of a religion or should not be seen from a perspective of an ideology which mobilizes people, because somehow it colors the political landscape. And I think Kathua and Aligarh are 2 glaring examples of how polarization has taken place, which needs to be avoided. Now what has happened inside the court is, and which is procedural, we have to understand that the judgment is not given in a go. It has to be done on a case-to-case basis. So the number of accused who stand in the court, so on a case-to-case basis, people are given sentence. Now that depends whether they have been sentenced to death, whether they have been given life imprisonment, or they have been given imprisonment for a certain period of time. Those details would be fleshed out. But then the sentencing has started to take place, which in my opinion would conclude today, because the matter was already reserved by the court, saying that on this particular date the judgment would be delivered. But it does not mean it comes to an end here. Please understand that India has a long and lengthy judicial system. My colleague from Kashmir, gave an example of Nirbhaya. But please remind you, the case of Nirbhaya is still pending in the Supreme Court. There are appeals on that. So similarly, these matters will go to the upper echelons of judiciary. 1. Secondly, yes, the issue of the minor has been taken care when subsequently after Nirbhaya case, a committee was made under the jurisdiction of then Home Minister Mr. Shinde, and subsequently amendments to the law were made. Similar amendments have been made under the BJP regime also. So I don't think in this heinous crime the minor will get the leeway, because 2017, 2018, Ministry of Women and Child Welfare and Home Ministry made those amendments that in case of a heinous crime such as rape and murder, the culprit cannot go free just because on a technical issue of age.
I think that's an important point that you've raised, and the issue that I also want to talk to you about, Karthikeya, is as to why does it take so long in our country for justice to be done. In the case of Nirbhaya, in July 2018, the Supreme Court had upheld the death penalty for the rape accused. Now, in this case, the hearing has been going on at the Pathankot court since last year, and it's well over 16 months from the time that the incident has happened, but still justice has not been done. Why is it that in our legal system that we are not able to fast-track our cases? Why is it that we're not able to arrive at verdicts in cases that are open and shut case, like what Kathua appears to be?
Because the cases get politicized. And before we move forward, Saleh, let me just update our viewers that Deepak and Parvesh, they have been sentenced, and the main accused, Sanjhi Ram, who was in charge of the area where this heinous crime took place, has also been convicted. So the main accused has been convicted. Apart from that, the other 4 people, we will have to wait and see. But yes, as you were talking about, the reforms in context of crime against women and children have been long and tedious. POSCO was somehow made 20 years back, but it was not that effective. Then came Nirbhaya, which shook the conscience of this nation, and subsequently the reform took place. But even then, during Nirbhaya, because of the technical issue of that juvenile, the specific clause of juvenile, the case had to be treated differently. But now, the amendments which have taken place a year back will ensure that the person who claims himself to be a juvenile cannot go scot-free. I think that's the most important takeaway in this context.
Absolutely. Do stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that we are joined by Aishwarya Bhati, who is also a senior lawyer. Ms. Bhati, let me ask you this question. Now, this incident, that brutal gang rape and murder of this 8-year child in Kathua took place last year in the month of January, and it's been 16 months that the search for justice is going on, and finally the verdict is being read out today. This was a case that was fast-tracked, but still it has taken 16 months. Why is it that the justice system in our country moves so slowly?
Well, just for, as somebody who's been in the legal side for the last 20 plus years, I can see that this case has been fast-tracked. I don't know of very many cases which, do result in conviction so quickly. Our judicial resources are just not sufficient to cater for the burgeoning population of our country. It's the same case which is there with the rest of the resources, and of course, judicial justice delivery system is not an exception in our country. So that is the reason why, justice delayed is a whole new debate, but definitely I would like to focus on the positive of this case. That finally, I think as a nation, we are, and as a society, we are becoming less tolerant to all these heinous offenses against women. And I think this is a welcome sign. I don't see 16 months as a very long time for a criminal trial to have gotten over, given the otherwise the system that we have. And I think this will send the right message, and that there from now on the society will have zero tolerance, and the justice delivery system also has to keep pace, especially for these kind of offenses against women.
Absolutely, indeed. These offences against women and also against these very young children that we've seen, it's a disturbing trend that we see in India, that minor girls the victim in this case was just 8 years old, and the fact that it's taken 16 months, you're saying from in comparison with the other cases that this is pretty quick. But my other question that I would like to ask you, Ms. Bhatti, is this politicization of instances of violence and rape against women, a disturbing trend that we've seen in recent months in India. How does this impact the justice system?
See, the justice system in India, thankfully, is very, very professional, and there is no impact of media trial or of major discussion and dissection of these issues. Of course, politicization of any offense which is not about politics should not be done, and these are crimes which every society deals with. The crimes have been happening in the civilization from the beginning, and I don't think there is any society that is crime-free. But the point is, once the crime happens, how the system deals with it, how the society deals with it. Are we callous and ignorant and negligent about it, or do we have the potential to deal with it in a promptitude manner? That is what defines as to what as a society is the kind of crimes that we will be looking at. And yes, you're absolutely right. These gory crimes that are happening against young girls, they depict a completely depraved mindset, and they have to be dealt with an absolute alacrity that the system must work at its highest efficiency. But politicization should not happen, but the debate must happen. It's because of the debate in media that these crimes are now getting the attention that they deserve. It is because of the focus the unrelenting focus of media on these offences that, we as a nation feel outraged about it.
Absolutely indeed, Ms. Bhatti. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and giving us that perspective, because we as a society need to perhaps introspect. We need to talk about this. It shows a very depraved kind of mindset of a society when young juvenile girls like this are targeted for some of the basest possible sexual crimes that one can think of. Let's also bring our viewers up to date. In this case, the verdict is being read out even as we speak. And now 6 out of the total 7 accused have been convicted, and this is the latest information that is coming in, where a total of 6 out of the 7 accused have been convicted. And Karthikeya, if I can bring you in on this, Aishwarya Bhatti raised a very important point. She said that it is important that we talk about it. It's also important that politicization should not take place, because that just complicates the matters and shifts the attention away from the crime altogether. But in cases like what we have seen in the case of the Kathua gang rape and murder case, what we've seen is, as a society, we did not respond in the manner that was expected of us. The Supreme Court had to step in, and the case had to be shifted out of Jammu and Kashmir to Pathankot in Punjab for an independent case to be carried out. Your thoughts on this?
See, I kind of agree, with the view that what has happened in last 10-20 years is that there is a failure of local police administration. So when you have a failure at the local level, at the judicial level and at the police level, then you go to the higher judiciary. So what is happening in the cases which should have been dealt at the local level, which is Kathua or Aligarh, the people have to go to the high court or the upper echelons so that the matter is expedited very quickly. Secondly, there should, to avoid political interference, and thirdly, to avoid political mobilization on this issue. Both Kathua and Aligarh have seen similar mobilizations, and there has been a great debate on the fact that, certain people have accused that there is a selective, outrage in context of Aligarh. But I would say that, the issues of sexual assault, rape, they should not become a matter of community. It should not become a matter of religion. It should be a matter of individual. And I would not even use the word honor, because that is patriarchal in nature. It becomes a matter of an individual, his legal right on her or his body, and that's about it. But unfortunately, what we have witnessed in Kathua and Aligarh is that it becomes a matter of community, it becomes a matter of ethnicity, it becomes a matter of region, it becomes a matter of honor, it becomes a matter of pride, which defies constitutional morality, because Constitution does not acknowledge community rights, Saleh. In Indian Constitution, the consensus resides on an individual. You have fundamental rights are enshrined the body of an individual. Fundamental rights are not given to communities. The Muslims do not have fundamental rights as a community, neither Hindus. Fundamental right remains same for every individual.
I think that's a significant point that you've made. This politicization of these horrific sexual crimes against young girls is something that India will have to introspect and move away from. And my colleague Ishan Vani is still with us. Ishan, the latest information that we've got is that 6 out of the 7 accused have been convicted. However, the 7th accused, we are given to understand, has been acquitted in this case. What is the latest update on this front?
Well, all of these 6 were the people who had all of them had committed the crime on this particular girl, which includes Sanjhi Ram, who was a village head and a former revenue officer, who basically planted this particular act to throw out this community out of Kathua region. Remember, this Bakarwal community is a hard-working community which travels with their cattle from Kashmir, takes a huge journey from Kashmir to Jammu, which is on foot with their cattle. So that is where they go to graze. But all of them have been, 6 of them have been convicted by the court. But this will be a huge relief for the family who are in somewhere in the mountains of Kashmir, who have come back from Jammu and are staying in the Kashmir Valley. I remember there were assurances given to the family by the administration that they should travel to Jammu and not fear anybody. They will make sure that this community travels as their ancestors have been traveling. But this will be a sigh of relief for the family of the girl, because she was really brutally murdered, has shook the entire community of Bakarwals, and later on the politicization
I will have to interrupt you there.
Ishan,
I'll have to interrupt you there, because I'm told that we are joined in by Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, Mr. KTS Tulsi, who's joining us over the phone line. Mr. Tulsi, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. Let me begin by asking you this. This was a case that it shook the conscience of the nation for the sheer barbarity and brutality that the young child was subjected to. And now the court has convicted 6 of the 7 accused. Your views on this case, sir?
Yes, not only barbarity of the manner in which the crime was committed, but also the question is that the manner in which it was thought to be whitewashed. The investigating agencies, the prosecutors, everyone was under pressure to suppress the truth instead of establishing it. So therefore, it's very fortunate that the matter got the attention of the Supreme Court and also the High Court, and then they had to be taken away. The case had to be taken away from the jurisdiction of the local police, given it to others, and it's a matter of great satisfaction that the law has won finally, and the guilty are being punished.
Absolutely, indeed. It is a reassurance that in this country, even though the wheels of justice move slowly, at least justice is done. But my question to you, of course, Mr. Tulsi, is that the fact in this case, it was such a hard-fought case that had to be fought because the case had to be transferred out of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. There were protests when an FR was first initially sought to be filed. You know, looking at what has happened in this case, do you see there is a precedent that is being set that despite the manner in which there were some elements in the society, the way in which they had tried to deny justice to this young child who was brutally raped and murdered, eventually now justice is being served?
Yes, I think that people who interfered with the investigation, who fabricated the record, there should be stern action against those people also. Because it's really sad. Our conviction rate is woeful, and when the state interferes, or when certain instrumentalities of the state interfere with the justice, they should be taught a lesson with a heavy hand.
Absolutely, indeed, Mr. Tulsi. Thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. Meanwhile, I'm also told that we are joined in by Ms. Kamini Jaiswal, who is also a senior lawyer practicing at the Supreme Court of India. Ms. Jaiswal, this is a horrific case, the verdict for which has finally been given at this special court in Punjab. Your opinion on the verdict that's been given out today, where 6 out of the 7 accused have been convicted. Now, the quantum of the punishment we still await for that.
Yeah, I think, nothing can bring justice to the parents of the child who has been so brutally raped and murdered. They are going to live with it and die with it. It is something most horrific, and it should never happen to any young girl and to any parent of a child. However, there is the only satisfaction is that ultimately, in spite of so much of interference, threat to the lawyers, all kinds of intimidating tactics had been involved in this matter. They tried to politicize the whole thing, communalize the whole thing. All that, at least, we should praise the judge who has given such a verdict. And I'm really, I can only say that this is the least that could have happened. And I do hope they get the strictest of punishment. And also, now, if this is the ideal case where the courts must take into account and also, render justice to the parent in as much as how much of threat they've undergone, and also punish those who were guilty and who obstructed the course of justice.
Is there a provision where those who are trying to obstruct the course of justice in this case, can they be brought to book? What does the law state in this case, Ms. Jaiswal?
Clear contempt of court. Obstruction in the course of justice and intimidation is a clear contempt of court. Intimidation is a criminal offense. So, something must be, we have to, the lesson must go that you can't play with the justice system like this.
I think that's a significant
point. This is an ideal case where this lesson must go, because there is a clear case of intimidation and obstruction, and whoever and however highly placed these people are, some punishment must be meted out to them. Only then will full justice be done.
Absolutely, indeed. Ms. Jaiswal, do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, Karthikeya, you have a point to make.
Just to update our viewers, the 6 people have been convicted. Now, Deepak, Khajuria and Sanjhi Ram are the main accused. So, Deepak, Khajuria, Sanjhi Ram and Parvesh, They have been convicted under 120B, which is conspiracy, 302 and 328 murder charges, 363 kidnapping, 201, which is damaging the evidence, and most important of all, 376, which is gang rape. Now, 3 policemen have also been convicted, Anand Datta, Durenj and Tilak Raj. They have been convicted under damaging the evidence and maximum 5 years of jail sentence. Now, in this context, the first 3, Deepak, Parvesh and Sanjhi Ram, since they have been convicted under 120B conspiracy, which is premeditated, which is murder charges, damaging the evidence, gang rape, they can be given death penalty. All 3 of them can be given death penalty by the court. And today the verdict will be announced at 2 p.m.
Absolutely. The sentencing, the quantum of punishment is expected at 2 p.m. This is the latest bit of information that is coming in. And Ms. Jaiswal, if I can bring you in on this. Now, these are the sections under which these 6 individuals have been convicted. Their convictions have been upheld on for Deepak, for Parvesh and for Sanjhi Ram, 120B. For conspiracy, 302 for and 328 for murder charges, 363 for kidnapping, damaging of evidence section 201 and gang rape of section 376. Now the question that I would like to ask you here, Ms. Jaiswal, is over the years we have seen repeated such instances of young children being subjected to such horrific instances of violence. What does this speak about the Indian society, and also the fact that convictions in cases like this are... The fact of the matter is, this was a case that may have been pushed to the wayside unless the media had not actively taken this case up and highlighted the atrocity and also the subversion of justice that had been attempted.
I will say hats off to the media. Really, they must continue to do their job. And actually, this is their job. This is their job, to expose what is going on and not just, be his master's voice as has been going on for the last few years. Whichever media channels took up this matter at whatever cost they took it up, they definitely must be, given kudos for that. And this is the rarest of rare case. This case falls within the category of rarest and of rare cases, and this is a must death sentence.
Absolutely, indeed. And also the other issue that a lot of people are in fact talking and debating upon, and something that needs to be looked at very closely and examined, is what happens to the case of this juvenile. Because one of the 8 who is in fact accused in this case, he has said that he is a juvenile and therefore should be treated differently, and that case of course is being heard in the Jammu and Kashmir High Court, where the court will of course decide on whether this individual that we're talking about is a juvenile or not. So under the justice system, when a crime as horrific as this is committed, is there a necessity for the Indian Penal Code to actually relook as to how these juveniles are treated, when they are involved in crimes as horrific as this?
Amendment, there is a provision that if they can show that the juvenile knew what he was doing, then he definitely will be punished under the IPC. There is an amendment to the Juvenile Justice Act. So the court must give a finding that he was definitely aware of the gravity of the offence and the horrific nature of the offence, and therefore he cannot take advantage of being a juvenile.